Have you ever had to try to give someone feedback and felt like you needed a PhD to avoid offending someone? If you've been in that boat, most likely you've been in leadership or management for some time, and maybe you've been on the receiving end of feedback given poorly, or maybe you've been the individual who you've given the feedback, but it just wasn't taken very well, and then you dealt with the fallout. And I want to talk about that because leadership and giving feedback and developing your people really shouldn't be this minefield that you feel you have to walk through it. If you step on the wrong place, suddenly it's game over. It's more of if you have the right tools and you have the right resources and you have the right framework, you can approach it confidently in a caring and connecting way to be able to get a result that helps people level up without feeling broken down. And hear me out. Let me show you this simple way to deliver feedback that builds your people, not breaks your people down. When I first stepped into leadership, I thought giving leadership was about fixing people. Like I see a mistake, I want to adjust it. I need to fix the issue. And what I learned is feedback isn't about control. It's not about fixing and repairing. It's about growth. It's about development and the opportunity to level people up to be the best version of them. So as you as a leader, you're trying to be a highly effective leader, and I'm trying to be a highly effective leader. You're trying to be trying to have a highly effective team. You say, what's this all about? Well, I'm Luke Sorensen. Welcome to my channel. I genuinely care about people, and I want to help you develop your team to be highly effective team members. I want to help develop you to be a highly effective leader and communicator. How we're going to do that today is looking at this. Feedback is not about control. It is about growth. And if you deliver it wrong, you don't grow people, you grow distance. What do you mean? What do you mean by that? If you give feedback poorly in a way where someone is either they're not picking up what you're putting down or they're literally picking up what you're not putting down, it can be catastrophic for your connection with that individual. So let's talk about what that looks like. What does good feedback look like in the moment? So I want to give you this thought here. John Maxwell says this: people don't care about how much you know until they know about how much you care. And so having that connection where people know that they can trust you is crucial. And so here's the problem. You might be the rookie leader or the rookie manager, or you've been given a new team and you're like, hey, I don't have a chance to build connection. I got to start dealing with the issues. I got to start some corrective action here. Otherwise, we're never going to right the ship. We're never going to fix the problems. And I want to just have you just lean in a moment. You can connect quickly. You connect in the sense of, hey, it's not about you. It's not about your authority. And while it is about the mission, the way you're going to achieve the mission is through your people, most likely. And what I mean by most likely is there's some people who may not make the cut. That's fine. But in the process of it right now, we're trying to make sure we're developing people. So if you say, well, I'm talking to someone that I know is not going to be on my team, I don't want them on my team. This is not a feedback conversation. This is a process of termination conversation. And if your company has a policy, follow that. If it doesn't have a policy, get a policy, protect yourself, protect your employee. But the bottom line is the feedback conversation is for people that you want to develop and grow. And some of the most valuable things that you can do as a leader is give quality feedback in a quality way. What do I mean by quality? A structure that gives you the confidence where you know you're going to help it land in a way where they're going to be able to pick it up, utilize it, and develop without feeling broken down in the process. Now, you have some highly sensitive people, and you have some people that literally it takes a 2x4 to help them understand exactly what you're saying. You need to be mindful of both and be aware that how you deliver things matters. Some of you are super, super social, able to connect. Some of you are super, super not social. And so when you're delivering any feedback, it's coming across like you are beating them down. It's not your intention. It's just your way to communicate. So if we look at the framework, let's talk about this. You're going to start with a connection before correction. As best you can, you want to make sure that this person knows that you care about them and their goals. Now, be very mindful. I don't want you petting the goldfish. And what I mean by that is don't go in there and start complimenting them on the different things just to try to connect with them. And it comes across as inauthentic and almost will hurt you more if you're trying to do a fake connection. True connection comes when you lead together, you laugh together, you cry together, you strive together, you work together, you have conflict together, and you work it out. That is where trust is built. And trust is the foundation of leadership. So as a leader who's also managing, understand you need to be able to have that solid ground. You need to be able to look at some laws and say, okay, I know I've got the credibility. I know I've got the trust. I know I have the compatibility in the sense, or maybe the competence, if you would. I've got these things. Maybe I know what I'm doing, or maybe you don't know what you're doing. That's fine too. Some of the best ways you can build connection is to look at the people on your team and say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing here. And you say, why would I say that? Because some of you are in a role where you don't know what you're doing. You're there to lead the team. You're there to lead the team. You're going to hold them accountable. You're going to get the results, but you're not necessarily there because you are the expert in their field. In fact, some of you are leading people that are, they have a lot more experience in what you are leading them in. Your job is to lead them, remove barriers, help them be successful, not to control every detail of what they do. That's management. So you got to be very mindful of this. So what I'm trying to say here in the connection aspect of, hey, I need to build the trust first. Otherwise, feedback feels like judgment. So how do I do that? You need to show them empathy and remind them that you're there for them, not against them. So when I'm removing barriers for my team, I'm trying to find, hey, what's holding them back from being successful? What's holding them back from hitting their own personal goals? By the way, do I know their personal goals? I'm not talking about their real world personal ones. I'm talking about the goals that align with why they come to work. And some of you are leading people who are they're coming to work because they got to pay bills. I get that, but there's always more of a why or a because. You say, what do you mean by that, right? Why goals have a purpose and might have deep. You talk like Start With Why and Simon Sinek, good stuff, right? But some people don't have the why, the purpose goals. They have the because goals. Because their parents weren't there, they need to be there for their kids. And so because of that, they are trying to do what they can at work. Or maybe their parents were there, and because their parents were always there for them, they want to make sure that they're always there for their kids or their spouse. So it's a because thing. It's because of what they have received or they haven't received, or because of what they've been through or haven't been through, what they have done or haven't done. They've got a because goal that is big enough to keep them going. And if you can establish that because confidence, like, oh man, this is what this person is wired or thinking and coming to work to show up to do, you'll be more confident in helping them hit their because goal or their why goal or their real quick win goal, which is something you can establish as well. So get this. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, I don't know how to say this. I'm going to say his name, mess it up, but the correction does much, but encouragement does more. You can really help build that connection by giving encouragement before you need to give the correction. You say, well, does that mean I put off the correction? No, I want to really quick. You need to deal with correction in the real time moment. So if you need to give feedback, give feedback. Corrective action is different, but feedback is helping people grow. And if they know that you care, if they trust you as a person, you can give them the feedback and get a long way quickly. Before you have to give correction, though, if you can constantly try to find people doing something right, what you'll find is opportunity to encourage them before you need to go actually give them feedback that's going to level them up. Any version of growth is not going to be comfortable, and a lot of times the best growth is going to be given in a feedback opportunity. For you to give them feedback, also for you to ask for feedback. If you create a feedback loop for yourself, there's a natural tendency where if you can say, hey, I need feedback on this area or on this aspect of what I'm doing, can you give me feedback one-on-one? I don't always take the feedback, but what I'm creating is a feedback loop where it is a culture of we develop each other through having hard conversations and giving feedback. That doesn't mean I take everything that comes to me and say, okay, man, they just told me ABC about me. They might have attacked me as a person. I'm not going to attack them as a person, but what I do want to do is open the door for communication. Because when I go to give them feedback, I'm not going to ask them permission to give them feedback. I am their leader. I am their manager. It is my responsibility to continually level them up. So if I'm trying to level them up and you say, what are you talking about? There's a scenario. One time I had an individual in a department that I worked with where an individual wasn't wearing deodorant. You say, man, that seems really silly. Well, it's a real thing. We're working with people and body odor matters, right? So you have to be able to how do I give someone feedback that's not wearing deodorant? They need to wear deodorant. They're working with other people. It's discourteous of them to not wear deodorant, but for whatever reason, people don't smell their own stink. Different lesson, but the concept is really there. How do you give that feedback? So let's talk about this. When it comes down to the encouragement aspect, and I want to avoid the purge pet. I really don't think that's the best structure. It's better than no structure, but it's not the best structure. So a conversation, for the example of connection might be, hey, before we talk to this, I want you to know that I value what you bring to the team. This is a growth conversation, not a gotcha moment. So, okay, I'm setting the premise. So in a scenario where I have a new relationship with someone, like, hey, this is an opportunity for growth. I love what you're bringing to the team. You bring a lot. You belong here, and we value what you bring to the team. So I want to make sure you understand this is a growth conversation. This is not a got you moment, but I want to talk about this. And then I'm going to lay out exactly the behavior that I'm seeing or the situation that I'm seeing versus necessarily the person that I'm seeing. So a lot of times we're dealing with idiosyncrasies that need to be adjusted for cohesiveness of the team. And what they perceive as this is kind of who I am. You're about to give them feedback on who you are, what you're doing, the behavior in this scenario that they're saying, well, that's my identity, right? You're going to give them feedback on that. You need to frame it in a way where you're not attacking them as a person. You are helping them develop themselves as a person, right? So let's talk about the SBI method. What's the SBI? Situation, behavior, impact. Most of you have, I hope some of you have heard this. It's a great concept. Number one, as I'm dealing with the SBI method, I'm going to describe the context. Don't give corrective, ambiguous, whatever that word is, where it's ambiguous. That's the word I'm looking for. Ambiguous YouTube videos are sticky that way, where you get the wrong word and I don't want to pull it out. So you're going to hear this raw as it is, right? Ambiguous corrective action doesn't really correct the action. What it does is it's just broad. It's blanket statements. It's like, would you kind of, could you, should have. No. This day at this time, you said this in this way to this employee. And what we want to do is this. There is a better way that we can do this. So I'm going to describe the actual context of the scenario. And then I'm going to describe what they did, not who they are. So S is situation, describe the context. Behavior is describe what they did, not who they are. I'm not attacking who they are. And I don't want to be very careful. I do want to be very careful because even if you're dealing with sticky situations and maybe they're a different race or a different culture, there may be language barriers, there might be a different gender, they might have a different belief system. You don't want to deal with any of that stuff. What you want to deal is like, hey, here's the context of the situation. Here's the behavior that showed up in the situation, right? And then here's the impact, SBI, situation, behavior, impact, SB. Explain how it affected the team or the result that they got because of it. So like, hey, they spouted off in an email, right, where they use some language they shouldn't to kind of describe a situation, and maybe the scenario was funny, but it's an opportunity. Like, hey, by the way, this kind of happened when I talk about it real quick. Hey, by the way, when you did this was the impact, and what we want to avoid is doing this, and here's why. Not attacking them as a person. They might swear like a sailor and drink like a fish or whatever it is. Hey, I want to go through it. Here's the situation. Here's the behavior that showed up, right? Here's the impact, right? But what doesn't work is doing this. You're always late and it's hurting the team. Well, that's no. You were late Monday, Tuesday this week. We had the conversation last week where you were late Tuesday and Wednesday last week. That doesn't work. So, or for instance, a good example would be this. In yesterday's team huddle, you joined 10 minutes late and we had to delay the project update, right? That's a very specific situation. Joined 10 minutes late. I'm not attacking them. I don't even know why they joined 10 minutes late. That's the behavior that showed up. You showed up 10 minutes late. And then we had to delay the project. How did it impact the team? How did it impact the people that we're working with? What was the perception, right? And we're not always dealing with the opinion, like, what do you think happened there? No, this is what happened. This was the impact. Hey, how do we avoid that in the future? Love this concept. Use the connection, use the SBI method, and then C is ask before you tell. There's a great TV show called Ted Lasso. If you haven't seen it, I challenge you to do it. There's a part in it where it talks about being curious, not judgmental. And the opportunity is, if you don't know what's going on, ask some questions, get to the bottom, get to the truth, get to the core of the issue, the principle, get to the excuses, remove all doubt, make sure that what you're dealing with is actually the person that you're dealing with. So many times as leaders, we jump into the bottom of the pile thinking that we know exactly what happened. We give the scenario, we give the consequences, and you say, okay, do you understand what I'm talking about? They're like, well, yeah, if that were the truth, but this is actually what happened. So-and-so said so-and-so, and I was... And suddenly there's a whole different scenario, and you could have saved yourself a lot of embarrassment and a lot of concern, a lot of issues, if you just asked some questions and said, hey, tell me what happened here. What am I missing? What do I not understand? What do I not know that went on the situation? Like, I got it. Like, tell me about Joe and Sally came in and said ABC. What's going on here? What I missed, right? A lot of times by asking questions, you're going to remove the walls of defense so you can actually get to the truth of, oh, that makes sense. Here's some feedback for you. Here's what happened. Here's how you showed up. And by the way, here's how it impacted the team. Obviously there's some miscommunication, but can you see where the impact where it landed wrong because of, you see the framework there? If I can do that where I'm real confident, especially if I start with the questions and then deal with the SBI method, now I've given them feedback on how they can level up and how they can start to show up in the team scenario. Now, there might be times I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. That's not my style. And, this is who I am. There are the this is who I am conversations, and then there's the to that own self be true, allow that to be in place. but never stop developing yourself or your people. So when someone says, "Well, this is who I am," I'm going to tell them, "Okay, well, do you want to stay that way? Because we're not designed to stay that way. We're designed to grow. Is there an area here where you have the opportunity to level up, to grow in?" Hard conversations, but that's why you're the leader. You're able to have hard conversations, and when you use this SBI framework, it really gives you that confidence of being like, "Hey, I know I'm going to be real crystal clear, and with my curiosity and getting to the truth and getting the source, I can give good feedback." And also, I might even use it in questions where I'm going to, okay, "Hey, what are your options? What options have you considered? What options haven't you considered? Hey, what's your next wisest step? Hey, before we meet again next week, what's something you think you can commit to doing between now and next week to improve the scenario?" Those are coaching questions where I'm getting them to come up with their own idea and own solution, which is going to empower them as an individual and give them the confidence to continue leveling up. So let's walk through this real quick. Feedback is not about being nice or mean. It's about being clear and kind. If clarity feels like cruelty, then you're probably trying to protect yourself instead of helping them grow. Clarity should feel good for both of you. It should not be an attack. They shouldn't feel attacked if you're bringing clarity. Brene Brown, tremendous leader, great book you should read. And I don't remember what it is. It's about dare to lead or whatever. But the quote here is, "Clear is kind, unclear kind. Clear is kind, unclear is unkind." So when you have that mindset, like, "Hey, I want to just make sure that it's crystal clear where we're at, where we're going, what we can do to keep on leveling up as individuals and as a team." So here's some of this. If you've got something, most of us have different scenarios where we're trying to deal with our people. I want you to take a piece of paper and I want you to write out the conversation that you're avoiding, not the whole conversation, but write out, "Hey, what have you been avoiding when it comes to feedback with your team?" And then use the SBI method to framework it out. Hey, what's the context of this? Clear context of this is how it showed up. Hey, how did they show up? What did they do? Not who they are. Hey, you're always this, or you the way you talk. No. This is how you showed up. This is what you said. This is how it landed. This was the impact. This is how Mary felt about that, right? And then end by asking this: "How can I support you moving forward?" What that does is it kind of puts a nice little bow on this. Like, "Hey, I'm giving you feedback. I know it's a hard conversation." What you're doing is you're acknowledging the hard conversation aspect of it, but you're also allowing them, like, "I'm here to support. I'm your leader. I got your back. And by the way, I might even tell, like, I got your back, but we need to work on these things, right? How can I support you moving forward?" That is a great question for them to be able to, because, like, if they give you something, that's a good sign. If they don't give you something, but they've got clarity, like, "No, I got it. I pick it up. Appreciate your support." There could be some absolute good there, right? But be wary of no response to this, because that means they might be feeling something, and you might need to dig a little bit deeper to make sure that it was clear and kind. The great leaders don't avoid feedback; they deliver it in a way that empowers their people to grow. So if you're trying to lead better conversations and not just correct people, this is the way. So as we're looking at about this, I'd ask you to this: hey, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and obviously, what I really love is if you what is say in the comment section below, what is the hardest part of giving feedback for you? Is it the conversation? Is it clarifying? Some people don't like the curiosity aspect. Some people don't like the actual, like, reframing it to make it make sense. What's the hardest part of giving feedback for you? I'd love to hear about that in the comments. That being said, we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for being a part of Luke Sorensen Leadership and all that we're talking about.